The Griot Podcast.
Peace. Y'all give me 1 second. I want to make sure we looking good on this end. Definitely we are. First, I want to say peace. Welcome to the Griot Podcast. Let's give a hand for the Griot Podcast. All right. I am Kofi Piesie. I am a writer, an author, um, a content creator, a publisher, and an independent researcher.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The second half, I'm your man, Sean P. I am a social media instructor. I am a scholar. I am a 5-time self-published author, public speaker, radio personality, podcast host, to name a few. Ready to rock with the boy.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And everything you mentioned, we mentioned that we are writers and authors. So everything is down in the description at the bottom. All of our brother Seanathan The Griot Polidore, all of his 5 publications is down in the description, as well as my several publications that I have are also down in the description. All of our social media handles are also down in the description. So y'all reach out, and support us, man. Y'all reach out and give us some encouraging words on our social media page. And also, man, check out some of the various publications that we have on. And also go to Mboka Family Connect Apparel. It's also down in the bottom if you want some of these dope uh the Griot Podcast t-shirts. We had the black ones on today. So Nathan, show you your red. So here's the red one. We got various colors. So if you want the Griot Podcast t-shirts, just go to Mboka Family Connect Apparel.com and get some of our apparel. All right, now that we got that out of the way, before we get started, I want to kind of go through the outline again of the podcast, right? So y'all can kind of keep up with what we got going on. We got the podcast broke down in several segments. So the first segment is the opening segment. So we're going to honor a teacher, a scholar, a writer, a author, or a revolutionary of the past, right? Um, Next segment is the Griot segment. We're going to talk only briefly about the Griots, real briefly, and we're going to move on. If you want more information of in-depth information about the Griot, go to episode 1, the beginning, and you will get all that information that you need about the Griot and the Grioti. History segment. So we'll be sharing information from books, articles, or a journal about history. Storytelling segment. We're going to be giving stories of our own personal experiences from our journey as writers, authors, lecturers, speakers, and etc. Music. We have a music segment. So we're going to be discussing our favorite genre of music and new albums release reviews. So, but this episode is going to be a little bit different in the music segment, but we'll talk about that once we get to the music segment. I know y'all going to enjoy that segment as well. Current event segment. We're going to discuss current events, you know what I'm saying, here and current events worldwide, right? So, in our last segment, which is one of my favorite segments, is the woman segment. So, we'll briefly be talking and giving flowers to women who have contributed something of value to the political world, the writing world, author world, business world, medical world, and the academia world. We're saying briefly, but we may be talking a little bit more with this segment because there's a lot of information with the 2 women that we're going to be talking about in this episode 2 of Dear Mama. So before we get started, man, with the opening, man, so Nathan, you got anything else, man, before we get into the honoring part, the first segment?
Nah, man, you totally set the table. You totally did the alley hoop. I'm ready to slam dunk that thing, man. I'm ready, bro. I'm good.
All right. So let's get into, like I said, the opening segment. This is the opening segment. So today I'm going to be honoring Thomas Sankara. Thomas Sankara was born in Istador, North Sankara. He was born to Thomas Isidore Noah Sankara on December the 1st, 1949, and Yaakov, French Upper Volto, as the third of the 10 children of Joseph and Margareta Sankara. His father, Joseph Sankara, and the gentleman was mixed with Masi and Fulani, a heritage, while with his mother. Um, Margreta Kidda was a direct Masi descendant. His Roman Catholic parents wanted him to become a priest, but he chose to enter the military. I'm not gonna read all of this. I can kind of go off. I salute Thomas Sakara. Um, I did a presentation on Thomas Sakara, and I'll talk really briefly about Thomas Sakara. His parents, like it read in his article, that they wanted him to become a priest, but he wanted to join the military. And the reason why Thomas Sakara wanted to join the military was because of what most of us do, or most of the people in the United States do, is, for an opportunity for education, all paid expense education and so forth. So he wanted an higher education. So Thomas Sakara went into the military. Went into the military, went to do his training in Madagascar, which is in East Africa, did some training. He read 2 books by 2 individuals, and it changed his life. It changed his perspective, and he got interest into politics. So far went on. Thomas Sakara built up rank in the military. Then he became a minister of information because he was a great public speaker. And from there, that's when the issues of him and his government took place because of his political views. And then he became a prime minister. And through the conflict with the president of his country, he was locked up, and a stage or a coup was set in place by 3 individuals who was also for the movement of Thomas Sakara. Thomas Sakara became the president of Upper Volta, and he changed that name, which was named by the French. He changed the name to Burkina Faso, which means upright people. And Thomas Sakara was definitely an upright person. And throughout Burkina Faso, there was corruption that was going on in the land, right? So Thomas Sakara, some of his accomplishments that he did while being president of Burkina Faso, he wrote the national anthem for the Burkina Faso country. He also, the flag that you see now in Burkina Faso, he created the flag. He also, during his presidency, he vaccinated uh, a lot of the youth. He gave women roles in the military, which was unheard of at that time at Burkina Faso. He put women in higher political positions. At that time, he gave out free land. Thomas Sakara did so much for Burkina Faso before another coup was staged of his assassination. And the coup is nothing but a military taking hold of the government, right? So I want to salute Thomas Sakara for all of his accomplishments that he did in Burkina Faso. So again, I want to extend honor and praises to Thomas Sakara.
I wanna I wanna say something real fast before I do my part, Kofi. This is very, very important for all of us sitting here, man. Like, even though I'm a part of this show as a co-host, I'm still learning stuff too. I've never heard what you said before in my life. So now I'm more curious. I don't know if the lecture you did on the brother was on your YouTube page or you did it somewhere else, but
It's on this channel right here,
it's on
Kofi.
this channel. Okay, so I mean, now see, with that being said, when we finish doing this whole thing, I'm gonna go and dig back in there tonight and give it a look, because as we're doing this, we're all learning together. It's not like we so smart and we so whatever and we just talking down on the people. We're all learning as well. I'm learning something right now. So, I really appreciate that about the show.
No doubt, no doubt.
So I'm going to go to who I'm honoring this particular episode. I am honoring the amazing American tap dancer, actor, choreographer that is Gregory Hines. He was born February 14, 1946 in New York City. He grew up as a family with a family of dancers and began performing with his older brothers Maurice at a young age. His talent and passion for tap dancing led him to pursue a career in entertainment. He made his way in a Broadway debut in 1978 in The Girl in Pink Tights and went on to star in several other Broadway productions. Um, He also won a Tony Award. Hines also appeared in numerous films and television shows, including The Cotton Club, White Nights, Will and Grace. He is known for his charming personality, captivating stage presence, and innovative tap dancing style, which blended traditional techniques with modern rhythms and movements. In addition to his career as a performer, he is also a respected choreographer and director. He choreographed shows on Broadway such as Sophisticated Ladies, Hot Feet, Savion Glover's New York, as well as films such as the famous, we all love, Tap. I got to go watch that again. Tap
Yeah.
and The Preacher's Wife. He is a pioneer in the tap dancing world. And I want to make one last thing before I get off of this. His son, Savion Glover, is an amazing tap dancer himself in his own right. That whole Hines family, man. So shout out to them. But I want to make sure I recognize this. Us discussing the griots, and we said in episode 1 that the griot did the griot role in various ways: song, dance, oral traditions, comedy, etc. So as we're highlighting different bullet points in these shows, I'm demonstrating different ways that these people are being griots. So shout out to Gregory Hines and the Hines family. Period.
Yes, sir. I think you told how old you were too, Nathan, when you mentioned tap.
Boy, you are funny, bro. You hilarious, dog.
I
You a
remember
funny dude.
I remember watching that, man,
I,
as a
I was a
young
shorty.
boy.
I was a
Yeah,
shorty. I was a
I
kid.
remember.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
used to watch that as well.
That
The sister, I don't, and excuse me, I know it's Claire Huxtable. Once in
yeah,
Claire Huxtable's
yeah.
sister, um, also, that played in that TV show
I
Tap.
believe so. I
Yeah.
believe so. It's been a
Mhm.
long time. Yeah.
Yes, sir. I can
Been a
remember.
long. That's throwback, man. But
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely love him and his son. His son Savion is he is a savant. He is amazing, bro. So,
Mhm.
and we'll get into the show later on when it comes to the parent influence on the child. We'll talk about that later on with Tupac Shakur, of course, and some other people as well. But yeah, man, it's interesting.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So next we're gonna move on to, man, like the Griots segment. Like
Yes,
I
sir.
said, if y'all wanted more in-depth information on the Griots, go to episode 1 of the beginning. And me and brother Seanathan The Griot Polidore, we go in depth on the Griots. But right now, I'll just read something real quick. And again, when we say Griots, we also now got to make a part of our vocabulary. When we say griots, we also need to mention in our breath. Also, we need to mention the grioti, right? Because the grioti is the female version of the griot, right? So let's not leave the grioti. Let's not leave our women out as well, right? So, but what is a griot? A griot is a unique to Western Africa. The griots or jali professional encompass many roles, as Brother Seanathan just stated a while ago. Griot is pronounced Griot. Griot have been referred to as historians and storytellers, but there are no real words in the English language that includes all of their functions. So the griot has multiple roles. Some facilitate all those roles, and some only facilitate one or two roles, right? So a traditional griot could do everything from recounting history to encompassing music, to teaching students, to acting as a diplomat. They are genealogists, historians, spokespeople, ambassadors, musicians, teachers, warriors, interpreters, praise singers, masters of ceremonies, advisors, negotiators, mediators. Not every griot does all these things, but these are all examples of the functions of, the professions of the griots embody, but also the griotes as well. We talk about praise singing. That is one particular thing that the grioti, which is our uh, uh, the female version of the griot, right? Masters of ceremony is another thing, but they also are advisors. They're musicians as well, but you will never see a grioti uh, use a musical instrument. When you see a griot, majority of the time if there is a picture of the griot, especially now the modern day griot, you will see them with their instruments the instruments of choice, or the instruments of the griot, and that is the uh balafon, and that is the igoni, right? But that's all I have on the griot, unless you have something else you would like to stress, brother Seanathan the Griot
No,
Polidore.
no, Kofi, you always amazingly lay that whole thing out and thoroughly. There is nothing else to say about that topic. Like you said, though, if you missed episode one, we did a real drawn out, elaborate rundown on the Griot. And as I go around telling my family and friends, man, we doing the Griot podcast, and we got something special coming up that's top secret later
Yes.
on too.
Ooh, yes, sir.
But but I don't want to say surprisingly, but a lot of people don't know what the griot is. So we can't ever take it for granted as if it's common knowledge and we all know this. We gotta slowly educate our family and friends on what this is, man. So check out episode one and we lay it all out. We lay the whole thing out.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Before we continue on, I want to highlight and recognize a couple people.
Mhm.
I want to highlight today is the birthday of the sister, Dr. Betty Shabazz, that being Malcolm X's wife, right? Betty Shabazz, also known as Betty X, was an American educator and civil rights advocate. She was married to Malcolm X Shabazz, grew up in Detroit, Michigan, where her foster parents largely sheltered her from racism. She attended Tuskegee Institute in Alabama, but she had her first encounter with racism, right? She
Mhm.
was born May 28th, 1934, and she passed on June 23rd, 1997.
Yes, sir. We want to extend honor, and praises to that sister. Also, I want to extend honor and praises. We lost a icon a
Yeah,
few days ago, and that
yeah.
was Tina Turner. So I'm
Tina
gonna read
Turner.
something real quick from E News. E News reported on this. It says one day after the legendary performance died at the age of 83, her cause of death has been attributed to natural causes, and I'm glad that that cleared that up, because there were
Mhm.
people saying, especially, my we was I was talking to my wife a while ago, and she was saying that she thought it was from cancer, and she heard somebody else saying that she was sick, didn't know the lady was sick, but it's saying here, from according to E News, that she died from natural causes. Her representation confirms to the dailymail.com. Her publicist also told NBC News her death came after a long illness. So, well, she was ill, but it was ill. We're saying natural causes here, but now it's saying her publicist is saying she was ill. So
Okay.
so E News has reached out to her manager to comment, but hasn't heard back. On May 24th, her team shared that she passed away at her home in Switzerland. With her music and her boundless passions for life, she enchanted millions of fans around the world and inspired the stars of tomorrow. And statement posted to her social media page read, "Today we say goodbye to the dear friend who leaves us all her greatest works, her music. All our heartfelt compassion goes out to her family. Tina will be missed. Tina, we will miss you dearly." So this is coming from E News. E News reported on this. So we want to also extend
Yeah.
honor and praise to
Honor,
Tina.
praise,
Mhm.
condolences to the family and friends, man, things of that nature.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Mhm.
All right, so let's move on to the next segment is the history segment, right? So, let's get into this segment. This is you're up next, brother Nathan.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I got it. I'm going to my slide right quick. Okay, so today's segment in history, I'm highlighting Anthony Crawford. He was an African American farmer and businessman who lived in Abbeville, South Carolina, in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. He was born into slavery in 1865, but after the Civil War, he worked hard to purchase land and build a successful farm. On October 21st, 1916, Crawford was lynched in Abbeville after being accused of cursing a white man. Despite his protest of innocence, he was beaten, stabbed, and hanged by a mob of white men. His body was left hanging in public for hours as a warning to other black people in the area. The brutal lynching of Crawford was widely condemned by civil rights organizations, and it helped to galvanize the growing anti-lynching movement in the U.S. It also led to the creation of the NAACP Anti-Lynching Crusade, which worked to raise awareness to the problem of lynching and push for legislation to address it. Today, Anthony Crawford is remembered as a courageous and successful African American businessman who was brutally killed because of racism and white supremacy. His story serves as a powerful reminder of the ongoing struggle for racial justice in the United States. I want to say one last thing before I continue off of that, Kofi. I think that they just had something passed recently in the past couple of years about lynching laws, right? I'm
Mhm.
talking about like 2021, 2020, something like that. So this happened back in like the early 1900s, and they are just getting this lynching law thing solidified and passed. That's crazy, right?
Yeah, man, that's crazy, man. I mean, but that just lets you know, man, how they, how they truly feel about, about us. They can peel it for around with passing certain things that will better, better our lives, man. Our lives has not been valued. The historical record, has shown that blacks or African Americans, uh, Africans. I mean, yeah, Africans. However you and whatever you calling yourself, that our lives are not value over here in North America, right, or anywhere else on the planet for that mistaken. If you go through the historical record and look worldwide, our lives have not been valued by anyone who has encountered us. They always um, have done some type of ill will um, to us, man. And it's crazy too, man, that reading through when we talk about the historical record, and we'll move on from this, is you talk about him being lynched, right? And a mob of people, what I'm saying, a mob of white people gather around, you know, um, why they hung and beat him. He is not the only person who has been hung and beaten, burned, and tortured by a gang of white individuals, lynching him, man. So, and that's crazy to me that just a few years ago, like you said, there's something you read about them passing some lynching laws, and we still have lynching going on today.
Yes,
I'm gonna leave it like
yes,
that, but lynching is still
yes.
going on
It
today.
is. Yes, it is. It's not talked about as much as it should be, but you still have certain instances and situations around the nation where people are still being hung for sure.
Yes, yes, sir. And we had one, man, was crazy, man. Probably about 3 miles down the street from me, man. A couple of years ago, man, a black man was left hanging by a tree, man, in Mississippi, man. Y'all look that up, man. Right here in Brookhaven, Mississippi. I'm gonna say maybe it was 3 or 4 years ago, man. Right here in Brookhaven, Mississippi, man. But there's always stuff going on here, in Mississippi, man. But
Well, you and I spoke briefly a couple of days ago in private about you being in Mississippi. I'm in Louisiana. Of course, we in what they call the red states, right? But we was talking about where we live at. Some people are very openly about their racial feelings. They got their Confederate flags. They got their whatever on their bumper stickers on their truck. But I was telling you how, to me, it's better because it's outright in your face. It's blatant.
mhm.
You know how to move around them. You know how to operate, how to whatever you got to do. Not like it's covert and they trying to still play like they like us. Like it's not like that. So I actually appreciate that. Like I told you a couple of days ago, keep it like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I rather see it. I rather see it in the opening, so I'll know how to deal with you accordingly. Yep. But let's get into Henry Box Brown, man.
One of my favorite stories, man. I love that
Yeah, man.
story. I
This
love that
this
story.
is yeah, and I had been thinking about who am I going to report on this segment, the history segment, and I said, man, I'm gonna do something on old Henry Box Brown, man. And a lot of people, is not familiar with Henry Box Brown, so Mine is on Henry Box Brown, 1815 through June the 5th, 1897, right? Was a 19th century Virginia slave who escaped it to freedom at the age of 33 by arranging to have himself mailed in a wooden box crate in 1849 to an abolitionist in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. For a short time, Brown became a noted abolitionist speaker in the Northeast United States as a public figure and fugitive slave. Brown felt extremely endangered by the passing of a fugitive slave law in 1850, which increased the pressure to capture escaped slaves. So I'll stop right there. You were talking about passing laws right a while ago, and I'll move on. But they created not too long. They created not too long after Henry Box Brown, he escaped in 1849. They passed a law in 1850, fugitive slave law. So this law was created for any a slave, which they call a fugitive, that escaped the plantation. If they made it to a free town, they could still be captured because they still would be deemed as a fugitive. So no matter, because you escaped and went to a free town and this place accept, you know what I'm saying, everyone to be free, they don't acknowledge slavery, they still could come in and siege that slave. So
You
he
know,
moved. Go ahead.
you know a good depiction of that, what you just said, Kofi. For those that haven't seen the movie Tubman with Harriet Tubman came out a few years ago, they do a good job of depicting that whenever they went up north to try to get free, and whenever they passed that law, these folks trying to go and kidnap and put these folks back into slavery, trying to
Mhm.
re-enslave these people that were already free, living well, living lavish. They got it popping. They got businesses and everything like that. And you see these white mobs come and try to recapture them after they pass that law. So for those that haven't seen it, go and check out the Harriet Tubman film. You'll learn something.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So he moved to England and lived there for 25 years, touring with the anti-slavery panorama and becoming a magician and a showman. Brown married and started a family with an English woman, Jane Floyd. Brown's first wife, Nancy, remained in slavery. Now, and it's a thing that said, hold on, I'll come back to that. Brown returned to the United States with his English family in 1875, where he continued to earn a living as an entertainer. He toured and performed as a magician, a speaker, a mesmerist until at least 1889. The last decade of his life, of 1886 through 97, was spent in Toronto, where he died in 1897. Right, and I was looking at something, man, from us. I can't think of this scholar name. She's a white woman, and she done a lot of writing on Henry Box Brown. But Henry Box Brown also wrote a biography on his own self. So shout out to that brother. He was a writer. He had some help, but he also wrote his own biography. And it's real cheap on Amazon.com. But
I will say the same thing. It's
mhm,
very, very cheap, very accessible.
yeah,
In Kindle, it might be free in Kindle or in iBooks.
mhm.
Might be able to find it for free.
Uh-huh. But she went on to state that, okay, Henry Box Brown, he paid for his he paid for his freedom. He paid, to be sent in a box, and they utilized uh a postal service that had a thing where they do not look inside any of those boxes, right? Confidentiality was their main focus, and a great service. So they used this postal service where he was owned by wagon. The box was shipped by wagon. It was shipped by railroad. It was shipped by steamboats, ferries, and then eventually the wagon till it ended up in uh Philadelphia. Now he left and he escaped it because he was first married to Nancy and they had three children, right? When his three children and Nancy, the slave owner, sold them, right? So, but later on, this scholar, she goes on to write that later on, uh the new slave owner of his first wife, Nancy, and his children reached out to him to buy his children, to buy his wife and his children back, but he refuses. But I hadn't found any other information, uh, verifying what this scholar is saying, that he refused to pay for his first wife and children out of slavery once uh he came back to the United States, man. But again, this is Henry Box Brown. If you want to know more about Henry Box Brown's story, or how Box became incorporated in his name because it was given to him. But I want you to go and read it for yourself.
Yes, yes.
So go check
Mhm.
out his story, man.
Yeah,
It's
phenomenal.
amazing
Man,
story.
you know what too, man? Reading history all the time and reading. I love reading biographies, autobiographies. Some people don't like reading that kind of content, but there are some amazing stories out there in the world that we don't hear enough about. Like Henry Box Brown, that should be a Netflix movie. That should be a series.
Mhm,
I can name multiple people off my head where their lives are like a movie. Like who could imagine that? And
mhm,
it really happened.
mhm.
So we gotta do more digging into these biographies, man. We need more of that.
Yes, sir, man. We have some strong brothers and sisters, man, in the past. We had some strong brothers and sisters in the past, man. And I wonder, will this generation or the generation before us and and our generation, or if we went through those same things, will we be strong enough to go through some of the things that um, our ancestors went to, what I'm saying, to liberate themselves, to free themselves, man. I just
Hmm.
I just want to, man.
They they showed amazing endurance, will, creativity. They were witty. They were clever. I mean, it took all those things just to
Mhm.
live life, just to breathe air. That's crazy, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But let's get into it, man. Now we into the storytelling segment. In this segment, we'll be telling stories from our own personal lives, our personal journeys, our ups, our downs, our triumphs, and so forth.
Yeah, yeah. So this particular segment, my personal story, I'm giving a story about being a griot once again. I was blessed to do a high school commencement graduation speech that was last Thursday at the West St. Mary High School. Probably had 100 or so graduates to address, and of course all the family and friends in the stadium, man. And that was a lifelong dream of mine. As a public speaker, you have certain things that are like milestones on your career path of public speaking, and to do a high school commencement speech is my goal for like probably almost 10 years. I've been trying to talk to different schools about being a graduation speaker, and I was finally given the opportunity to do it, man. And it was everything I hoped for, everything I dreamed for. It was amazing. It was wonderful. I'm still getting emails and inboxes about the ones that saw the speech, what they felt about it, and how it impacted them. And I'm just so grateful for the opportunity in the school telling me I was able to do it. I mean, there's so many amazing people in the area that could have chose to do it. So for me to get the opportunity to do it was very special, and I enjoyed every second of it, bro. Facts.
All right, let's give our brother a hand. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Major accomplishment, man. I love it, bro. I love it, and again, you are operating in that griot capacity. You're operating in one of those characteristics of the griot, right? So we're not just talking about it. You know what I'm saying? We actually living this griot lifestyle, right? So, my segment, um, I was forwarded an opportunity, and I was also made, and I have had this role before in the past. Everybody knows that I'm a part of an organization. Um, I'm a Mason, been a traveling man, 18 years. And I was fortunate to be the district lecturer. And I was given the opportunity to do a lecture at one of our big conference, right? The second district conference, right? And so I wrote, I wanted to write something that was important because in the organization, I see a lot of stuff that goes on in the organization that contradict who we are. That's why people second guess, or you saying that you are brother Mason, that doesn't hold any weight anymore because of our character, right? So I wanted to put together something dealing with our character. So I put together a lecture called "What is Your Character, Man?" And took me a couple of weeks, man, to put it down because I wanted it to be perfect and I wanted it to hurt some people's feelings in the process, but also get some people or get some of the newer brothers, on the right path when it comes to cultivating and building good character. But I also wanted to go back and give it from an African perspective or give it from our ancestors' worldview and not from a Eurocentric worldview when we talk about cultivating and building uh good character, right? So I did exactly what I said I was going to do. Um delivered the lecturer. I hurt some of the higher some of the higher people in position. I hurt some of their feelings, so I did my job. Um, um, Teached and informed certain people that didn't know certain things with certain tools that we use or utilize for cultivating good character, how to recognize one to have good character, how to cultivate your character and everything, man. So I appreciate the district deputy for giving me an opportunity to speak and teach. And again, I served in that capacity as well as being a teacher on that day, and that is one of the characteristics of the Griot is teaching students. So I was there in a capacity to not only share information, but but also teach in the process.
That's important, man, and that's major because I'm not a part of any organizations or groups or societies or squads, none of that. But I know that every organization has things that could be better. I know every organization has certain individuals that make it bad for everybody else. All those things always exist from the beginning of the time. It's not nothing new, right? So that's a very, very important lecture, my brother.
Yes, sir, man. Yes, sir. So let's get into let's get into this music segment, man. Let's get into this music segment. Like I said,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
we
It's gonna
we
be
know
fun.
yes, sir. We normally review the newest music that came out the month that we record the podcast. But today we're gonna do something different. And the podcast is actually named the episode, the episode is called Dear Mama, right?
Dear mama. Yeah.
Right? And it's only fitting, this month for this episode to be called this. We should have said this in the beginning. Uh but Mother's Day just passed. So this is the
Yeah.
Mother's Month, right?
Salute to the
And
mothers.
right, so salute to the mothers, right? And we just lost and we just lost the icon, Tina Turner. Um, you know, um, and the documentary on Hula Hoo uh recently came out, right? And it talks about Afina Shakur and Tupac Shakur, right? And
Powerful documentary.
how
Gotta see it.
right, and
Gotta see it.
we're gonna talk about it in this segment as well as Pac. But the first thing before we do that, man,
Yeah.
let's all right, let me put this down. I want your and anybody else that's in the chat, right? So it says, I'm so what these are Tupac. Let's talk about Tupac's album and let's talk about Tupac for a second before we get into the documentary. All
Okay.
right. So which in your own order, your own order, right?
Yeah.
All right. First, okay, Tupac put an album out 1991, Tupac Lives Now on Interscope. He put out another album in 1993, Strictly for My Niggas on Interscope. 1995, Me Against the World on Interscope. 1996, he put out a double CD, All Eyes on Me,
Mhm.
um, Death Row Records, right? Then also in 1960, following in the same year, he put out another album, Don Illuminati, The 7 Day Theory, right? Machiavelli, right? This was also on Death Row. Then in 1997, this was after his passing, I think, Are You Still Down? Remember Me. 1999, another album after his passing, Still I Rise, Interscope dropped. And then 2001, Until the End of Time, was also by Interscope. So, in your own order, what would
Yeah.
you rank these albums? Which would be your favorite from the top
Yeah.
to the bottom? Anybody
I
else in
got
the chat too? I would love to see, hear anybody else
you. Yeah.
feedback as well.
When it comes to myself, I'm going first and foremost to Machiavelli. Oh my goodness. Uh, I was in high school, like ninth grade in 1996. So Machiavelli probably came out around in between eighth grade, ninth grade for me. Totally is a game changer in my life. I was playing it night and day and night. Anywhere we went, I was playing Machiavelli nonstop, man. All Eyes on Me will be next. Totally love All Eyes on Me. Then I would choose Me Against the World. Then I would choose Strictly for My Niggas. Then I would choose Tupac Lives Now. Now everything that came out after Tupac passed, I've heard it, but I wasn't really like crazy about it. Cause at that time, people kind of like trying to add on verses or manipulate things. They was doing different things. I didn't really emotionally feel the same way about it like I did his previous work.
Mhm.
So yeah, all eyes on. I mean, Machiavelli, All Eyes on Me, Me Against the World, Strictly for My Niggas, Tupac Is Now. That's what I go with. And I
Okay.
still play those things on a regular basis. Like when I go to the gym, want to get a workout in, I play Machiavelli like a lot.
Mhm.
I want that energy. I want that
Yeah.
vibe. I want that. I want that mindset. I want that. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's how I feel
Right.
about it.
Right. We only Teddy Usher my Ox and Neferu. We only just talking about Tupac album. I know he put out a Thug Life album. He also put out an Outlaws album, but we just strictly
Yeah,
talking about
Tupac. Yeah,
Tupac album right now.
yeah, yeah.
And so with mine, I will have to go. And okay. Me Against the World will be my number one. And the reason why Me Against the World, I'll get into. Okay, well, first, Me Against the World will be number one for me. Tupac Now will be number two. All Eyes on Me will be number three. Strictly for my no, Dunk Illuminati will be four. Strictly for My Niggas will be number five. And I wouldn't rank the other ones because just like you said, well, I'll rank number six. Are You Still Down will be number six. Um, I never really got into Still I Rise. I've listened to it until the end of time. We know those were verses that they took and tried to formulate an album, but Pac did record a lot of information. But the reason why Me Against the World uh is my favorite. Is the top one. I know a lot of people will say, I hear people say All Eyes on Me, the double album was the best, or Dunk Illuminati. I'm saying the 1995 album for me is because the music on there was incredible. And at this point in time, my mother didn't really listen. She only listened to two rappers. She listened to Snoop Dogg and Tupac album. And this album made me and my mother closer. We shared something together. I was raised by my grandmother, but my last year of high school, my last maybe 5 months of being in high school, I went and stayed with my mother, and my mother drove me to school because my mother stayed 30 minutes from the high school. So we would listen to Me Against the World every day. I'm seriously for the next 5 months till no, I take that back because she eventually moved to Brookhaven my last month of my graduation. So for 4 months, every single day, coming and going, Me Against the World was playing in my mama uh Camaro. She had a T-top gray Camaro, and we would bump this Me Against the World album every single day. Me Against the World. And that album, you can just put it on and play it from the top to the bottom, man. So those are my list of
Yeah,
Tupac albums. But I
yeah,
also I got a question for you, Seanathan.
yeah. Go. Yeah,
All right. So we just gave a list of the Tupac albums.
yeah.
So my question is, from 19 art, the reflection of the music, do you see two versions? Well, there were so many versions of Tupac, but do you see two versions of Tupac music from 1991 up until his passing of 1996?
I would say definitely there was a drastic change in his music, but as he would say himself out of his own mouth, he's a Gemini, man. So he had those two sides. He always said that himself.
Mhm.
So we ain't got to try to guess about that, man. It was definitely a drastic change, a drastic shift in his content, in his motivation, and I would also say that the music industry shifted as well.
Mhm.
So whenever you're a part of an industry and you're a part of a culture, if you know it or not, if you're consciously doing it or not, you are going to shake and move to what the industry is doing. And we can get into that later when it comes to the book industry. We're a part of the book writing industry and
Mhm.
how that shapes and moves.
Yeah.
And we got to adjust as we're producing product right now. We got to adjust to that. So I would say he was doing that at that time, but there was knowingly or unknowingly he was shifting, adjusting to the rap game at that time as well.
Yeah, and I think and we can get into the documentary Dear Mama, which is
Yes.
on
Oh
Hulu.
my God. My God.
It's phenomenal, but
My.
and I can see my thing is I wish I could have valued Tupac as now strictly for my niggas and Me Against the World like I value those three bodies of work right now. And the reason why I say that is when you look at the documentary, for those who looked at the documentary, Dear Mama, how many episodes? Is 5 episodes? I think it's
Yeah,
five.
I think Dear Mama is 5 episodes.
Mhm.
Oh my God, it's amazing. I think so far we had the mid-year point almost. It's almost June. It might be the best thing I've watched all year, bro.
Oh
Like
man.
every week it came on, I was waiting for it at 2 in the morning. I'm waiting for it to drop on Friday night, whatever. I want to tune in.
Mm,
And it was definitely, I want to see emotionally moving. Like as a guy, not many things get to me watching it on TV or reading it, but something about watching that documentary was really, really like emotional for me, bro. Like it was really tugging at me, man. It was awesome.
right, man. And that documentary, there was many things that said, and many things put out about Tupac and a little bit about his family and a little information about his mother, right? And Tupac was destined to be who who he was, right? And like I'm saying, me valuing his body of work, Tupac is now strictly for my niggas and Me Against the World, 1991 through 1995. If you listen to his music, a lot of his music was rebellious music. It was liberating the people music. It was fighting against police brutality. It was uplifting the people. It was watching out for the government. You know what I'm saying? He had a political message inside of those three bodies of work. And the worst mistake, this is my personal opinion, was when he got with Death Row, his 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 um his shift changed from having a political message, a rebellion message, or spreading the message of being aware of what's going on out there to this gangster persona. And I believe that he felt like he owed it Suge Knight for releasing him from jail. But from what I seen in a that might have been in the documentary. One of Tupac's colleagues at the time said that Death Row didn't get him out. It was Interscope. It was
Yeah,
Tupac royalty money. So it really wasn't to Death Row
right,
Records
right.
paying all that money, as
Yeah.
people would say, Suge paid all this money to get him out, right?
I want to add a caveat to that too, Kofi, what you just said, because people love to say something simple as, "Well, he got with Death Row and then he became blah blah blah." That's very simplistic, right? Life is more intricate and nuanced than that. And documentary shows he had a chain of events that happened to him
Yeah, he did.
from black people,
Mhm.
the very ones you want to protect and speak out for, the very ones you want to do so much for, the very ones you risking your life for, the very ones that did this and this to you. He had certain venom and vitriol in his heart already based on certain things that happened to him.
Mhm.
So I think that death row or not,
Oh
he
yeah.
was bound to make different kind of music anyway, is my point.
Okay. Okay. Okay, I got you. I got you. And there were some chain
Hmm.
events that did, happen to Tupac, man, and it altered his perspective and
Yeah.
uh his outlook on certain things. It definitely
Hmm.
did, man. And his mother, man, like if
Oh
y'all
my
know
God.
his mother, man, and I can't wait. Let me
That's the
see.
part that did it for me, the mama.
Yeah,
The
and this.
feeling, because us in our generation, once again, dating ourselves, we knew more so the Tupac part, in my opinion. I mean, I did anyway.
Mhm,
There been so many things put out since Tupac died from different people in
mhm,
his camp, other guys, whatever.
mhm.
But the Afina Shakur part, I watched it every week for the mama part. Like, that
Ye
was the part that
Yep,
really, really intrigued me the most.
yep, me too.
Mama, man.
And that would, inspire me from watching the documentary, this book right here, Afina Shakur, Evolution
Yes.
of a Revolutionary,
I
right?
gotta get that. I gotta
Right.
get that. I
And
gotta
it's
get that.
written by Jasmine Guy. And Jasmine Guy and Fina Shakur is on the back of the book, right?
Yeah.
And she had a personal relationship with Afina Shakur and Tupac Shakur.
Yes.
So
Yes.
she wrote about Afina Shakur in this book. And I didn't know nothing about this until I watched the documentary. So I bought the book and I can't wait to dig into the book. It's
Yes.
also on Amazon and it's cheap as well, man. I think I paid
Yes.
maybe $14, if I'm not mistaken, for the book. But Fina Shakur, you extended honor and praises to her last month on episode 1 in the
Yep.
opening segment.
Yep.
And this was a strong woman. Like most people know, uh, she was a member of the Black Panther Party. She was a high-ranking officiate in the Black Panther Party, right?
Yes, she is.
And well respected in the Black Panther Party, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and you know, they for having the respect for her, they raised I think it was $11,000 in the documentary that they said, and they raided one night. They raided the people that they thought that can be a threat, right? That's in the Black Panther Party. So Afina Shakur was also one of the multiple people that houses that they raided that night to put them in jail because they feel like she was also a threat, right? The government,
Yeah.
right?
Panther
So
21.
yep. And so it goes on in the documentary to say that she fought for her freedom. She represented herself, right? Why Tupac? We all know from the stories of Tupac that when his mother, all we know was his mother was in jail and Tupac was in her womb, right? Tupac was also in her womb when she was fighting for her life. They was trying to put her in prison for 300 and some years.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And she
Yeah.
represented herself while Tupac was in her womb. This strong woman fighting for her life and represented herself, man, and
Right.
freed herself by representing her own self. Now,
Yeah.
she'd have left it in somebody else's hand. I think she probably would have ended up like
In jail for
Matulu.
life. Yep.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
She
In
would have,
jail. Yep.
yep. But she freed herself and
Yep.
through and but and I didn't know this part in the documentary we don't want to give up too much for people who hadn't looked at it, but it's been out I think about a little over a month now.
Yeah. About a month.
Hmm. And she kind of feel betrayed by some of the people in
Yeah.
the Black Panther Party
Yeah.
doing her being scooped up, and I didn't know anything about that neither. She feels a certain type of way because some of them left and went into hiding in the other countries, you know what I'm saying? And
Hmm.
and she feel
Hmm.
like, that they left her out, and we know
Yeah.
the hardships that she went through. And go ahead.
And that's kind of what I was alluding to when I said that a certain chain of events before the whole death row thing, before the whole all of that, certain chain of events happened to Tupac that I think was turning his heart, right? And he said his mama told him, "Don't go out there and risk your life for these people."
She did.
She was talking about us, black
Mm.
people.
Oh yeah, of course, of
When she
course.
said these people, she was talking about us.
Mhm.
Don't go out there and jeopardize and risk because she felt she already had them did that. And certain people turned their back on her. Certain people left her out to dry on her own.
Mhm. Yeah.
So
exactly.
that was she was alluding to, man. And I want
Yep.
to add on to the Afina Shakur part of this conversation. A brand new book just came out last Tuesday, a matter of days ago. It's called The American Family. It got a K in America. American Family. It's about the Shakur family, the
Mhm.
whole family. Tupac, Afina, Batula, Lumumba, all the other parts of the family as well, man. And it breaks down a good biography on all of those individuals. And just reading the Afina Shakur part of it, the biography of her from her childhood growing up as a little girl, the small little town where she from, witnessing black people protesting against the KKK, fighting back with the KKK. Like she witnessed resistance early in life. Then they moved to New York. She was a little girl, like a young girl, a part of like street gangs and whatnot, not glorifying that, but saying she was out there in them streets, people her age dying around her. She witnessed a whole lot before high school.
Mhm.
So you're seeing the makings and the becomings of her having that military mindset, her having that resistance, her having that strength that she displayed. You see the makings of that along the way. It's a phenomenal book, man. You got to get it. The
Bro,
American Family. Yeah.
yes, yes, sir. Man, that song popped up in my head when you
What's
said
on?
military.
What's on?
Military mind. We
Oh,
trading war stories. We
yeah.
outlaws on the ride, because I despise. Look at my eyes.
We
So
trade wars. Them are my favorite ones, man. War stories.
so he always
Yeah,
talked
war
about that
stories.
military mind. Pac always talked about that military mind, right?
Military minded, man. But
Right.
you see how she moved to New York, right? And she
Mm-hmm.
started being with these different organizations. And you see whenever she first started being around Lumumba Shakur and all these other kind of people, and when she first started being around the Black Panther Party and how it evolved and all these things. It's a phenomenal, well laid out book, well researched. I definitely advise to go and get it, man. The American Family is the name of it. It's probably $9 to $10 in Kindle. I don't know what the physical one costs, but yeah, man, check it out.
Yeah, and
We always pumping books, man. It's still
yeah,
about information.
sir. Yes, sir. So definitely go check out those two books that we just mentioned. And we'll move on from this in a minute. But I took, I wanted to go to Ray Love. Ray Love was also uh one of Tupac's childhood friends, and I see Ray Love. Ray Love put an album out. He's from California as well. He became Tupac's friend, and I didn't know Ray Love still was around after Tupac got out of prison and was over there on death row. But and I didn't know that one of the first songs on Tupac is now the visual. They got me trapped. He wrote the opening lines for that song for Tupac, and
Mm,
Tupac took it and then he built on that, and
mhm,
created the
mhm.
song. They got me strapped, and I didn't know Ray Love was there at the end of Afina Shakur death. Right? I think he said he left to go get her something because she had
Yeah,
bought all these acres of land
right.
somewhere, and when he come back, what I'm saying, she was gone. He said she was already saying she was feeling sick or
Yeah.
whatever. So I said, then that was something that I didn't know, and I didn't know Ray Love was still around, and
Hmm.
um, and I didn't know, that when you mentioned the new Black Panther Party, right? I didn't know that that was kind of like an ideal from Pac, and Pac was actually, if Pac said that if the music didn't pop off, then he was gonna be the director for the new Black Panther Party. This was the new generation. He was wanted to bring in the new generation to represent the Black Panther Party, but the music actually jumped off for him. And Brenda's had a baby. They talked about that in there as well. Brenda had a baby was based on a true story, right? This was a
Yeah.
true story that he actually read about. I can't remember. Was it in New York? I can't
Yeah.
remember what.
It's in New York. In New York.
Mhm. In
Hmm.
New York, and then they just see, and he feel obligated to speak more about it because they spoke about it and then you heard nothing else about it. So he wanted to bring it back up, what I'm saying, and highlight what happened to this what happened to this to
Because
this child.
it was actually happening so often. Like it wasn't just like one time, one baby. Like it was a occurrence that was happening
Yeah.
to be highlighted. That one particular time just really, really sparked his mind. Like, man, I got to do it now. But it had been happening before that, for sure.
Yeah, man. That's so. That's just some of the
Yeah,
things we want to. Go ahead. Go ahead.
we could all sit here and debate, if Tupac, how you rate him on your all-time favorite rapper list, how you rate him lyrically. We could debate all those things, but to me, when I hear different artists talk about his work ethic and how much he didn't play around in the booth, he ain't waste no time, like how fast he would write, how tremendous of a writer he was, how good of a recording artist he was. He didn't waste no time in the studio. Like he pumping out tracks, and we all know he's infamous for having so many freaking tracks probably still out there in the cosmos, right? So you definitely got to respect that as an artist.
Yeah, Ray Love, Ray Love. I know about Ray. Excuse me, brother Donnie Williams. I know about Ray Love. I also know about Mac Mall. Mac Mall was one of my favorite rappers out there in the Bay. His first album, after his first album, to me, that's just my opinion. He kind of went downhill, but his first album, Mac Mall first album, is a classic. Ray Love album, his music. I love his music as well.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, sure.
so let's get into, man.
What we
You
got?
know, so let's get into, man, this segment here, man. Let's get into the current event segment real
Okay.
quick, man. Um,
Yeah.
and I meant to have this pull up, man. And I'll just leave the link, man, if people want to go get it. But this is we reporting that we got this information from the Griot .com, right? Um, it says it Israel's elbows to produce doc series on racism in the music industry.
Yes, man.
Idris Elbos is involved in a project that will shine a light on racism in the music industry. The Luther Star is set to produce Paid in Full, the battle for payback through through his green through his Green Door Picture, the collaboration with Zinc Media label Super Collider. The doc series will take a hard look at how the music industry often exploited black talents, according to recent reports, right? So, and this is a report that is coming from the Griot .com, and that is a great platform, y'all. If y'all want to get any type of news, worldwide news, entertainment, news, man, whatever type of news, man, that's a great
Good
platform.
black news.
Yes, black news,
Black
you know what
news.
I'm
The
saying?
Griot. Yeah, black news.
Yes, sir. Yes,
And
sir.
there
So,
is an actual app you can download in your app store. You can download the Griot app and have it at your fingertips.
yep, that's exactly what I did. I got it now at my fingertips, and
Yeah,
like I told you, I like how they got their platform set up on here, man. This app set up on here, man.
it is a
So
real nice layout.
yes, it has the news where you can click on to the news, entertainment, opinions,
We got business.
politics,
Mhm.
business, and politics, right? You know what
Yes.
I'm saying? Black owned news, man. We got to start
Yeah, man.
supporting
We got
uh
support. Yes. Black
black
press.
owned news,
Black
man. But
press.
what you think about, man, uh Israel's elbows, man,
Yeah,
producing that documentary.
I was gonna speak on that, man. I think I touched on it a little bit. Episode one, I might have glanced over it, but let's highlight it. I love that right now in this generation, a lot of our top actors and actresses, they're starting their own production studios. They're directing, they're writing, they're producing. I love this new wave that's happening because, with that being said, we can have more things like this come out. We're
Mhm.
not waiting for Paramount Studios or Lion Gate and all these other people's studios to green light our projects and let us say certain things. Like, nah, we're doing our own thing. Even the boy, the martial artist, I love the brother, Michael Jai White,
Oh
got his
yeah.
own studio, got his own studios now, making
Mhm.
his own film. Something came out a couple weeks ago. Matter of fact, I need to go and watch it. Michael Jai
Ex-
White doing it. The sister, Kiki Palmer, got her own thing going on. The sister, Tiana Taylor, got her own studios.
Mhm.
Um, I can think about the brother that played the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I think his name is Aaron McKee or something. Is a brother. He played in the Marvel movies. down there in New Orleans. Got his own studios, right? So we seeing more and more people getting their own projects. I told you in private, if you like it or not, it's not my business. But Jada Pinkett Smith has a series on Netflix about Queen Nzinga, the sister, yeah, about that situation. It's like
Mhm.
a 4 or 5 part series, awesome series. I don't care what you feel about her personally as a person, but the series, let's keep the focus on the information. The series is awesome. Go and check it out, right? So we need more of this going on in the community. Is my point.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt, no doubt. And salute to everybody is now and you know, for taking ownership, taking their own careers in their own hands and telling it from their own perspective and their own worldview. That's what it's all about. And one of these sisters that we finna especially talk about, what I'm saying, she personally believe in it. So let's get into the last segment of the podcast, and that is the woman's segment, right? And like we said in this segment, we always want to give it up to the women who paved the way for us, the women who made major contributions, you know what I'm saying, whether it's in the medical field, whether it's in the scholastic or the academia field, whatever field it's in, wherever they're striving in, and showing their greatness in, man, we want to highlight these women. So this segment, we're going to be dealing with something from this is the three mothers.
Man, go and
How,
get that.
how the mothers of Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and James Baldwin shaped the nation by Annie Malinka Tubbs. And
Man,
this
please show that to him, Kofi. Man,
get,
go out there and get that,
get
man.
this
Please
book.
go out there, family.
Get this
Please.
book.
I'm
So
begging y'all, man.
yes.
Once again, on Kindle, it might be $9 to $10. Kofi tell you what the physical product costs. He has it.
Man, I can't think of. Hold on,
Okay, okay.
I'll get back to them. I'll get to it
Okay,
in a
that's
minute.
fine.
Matter of fact,
That's fine. That's
I
fine.
can do it real quick. I can go here and let y'all know. But the book,
Yeah.
it didn't break. It didn't bank break break the bank. Excuse me. I'm pulling up
Yeah,
my orders right now.
yeah.
It's
You got so
the-
many goddamn books, Kofi.
yeah,
There's
I know.
so many books on that thing.
Mhm. Uh, the book was. Dang, I ordered some other stuff with the book.
See, I
Okay,
told you. See that?
the book was $11.28.
There it is. The price of a number five at McDonald's. Price of a number five. You can go out there and get your
Right.
education on,
Yeah,
man. But no,
right.
I love to give people an idea what things cost because I know, on a serious note, I try to be cost effective and make it accessible to everybody, man. They got the paperback, they got the Kindle version. I'm sure there might be an Audibles version for those that like the audio version. So I like trying to make it accessible to people.
Yes.
You ain't got to feel like, damn, I can't afford to get no good books. Like, yeah, we can find ways to get it to you.
Yes. So we're only going to talk about two of the mothers today. We're going to talk
Yeah,
about
yeah,
James Baldwin mother, and we're going to
yeah.
talk about Malcolm X mother today. We'll come back and we'll do Martin Luther King's
Yes, we
mother,
will.
right?
Next
But
month.
this book here, like I'm saying, it's a great book. I'll be honest. I'm almost done reading the book. I hadn't
Yes,
finished it. I think I got
yes.
maybe about 30 pages left in the book. I think it's
That's good. Hey, Kofi, what's your overall opinion of the book thus far? I mean, 30 pages left. That's pretty much you're almost done with it. What's
it's
what's your overall opinion of the book?
it's an excellent read. It's an
There it
excellent
is.
read. She did some great read with what she had. I'm gonna say she did great research with what she had because she also interviewed and talked to some of the family's members that are actually still living, and some of them had some info, only had little information that she was able to go on. A few records she was able to retrieve on certain things. So she did some great research, and and I like how she started the book out, talking about, her and her husband being, I think this was around they went to Washington or somewhere to see something dealing with Frederick Douglass, right? And they were supposed to be leaving, and they went out to eat, and she thought she was her visitor. Women always say when the visitor comes every month, and she found out that she was actually late, and she was pregnant with a child, right? So all of this book was inspired by her being by her being pregnant and then directing her studies because she's a doctor. So she was going into her second thing of doctoral. So she studied more on child psychology and some other stuff in there, man, if I'm not
The book is
mistaken.
called The Three Mothers. I don't want to cut your knowledge. I saw somebody in the chat ask. I don't want to cut your information, brother. The Three
It's
Mothers.
Three Mothers.
Hmm.
Three Mothers. How the mothers of Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, and Jane Baldwin shaped the nation. That's Sister Ladosha. Shout out to Sister Ladosha.
Yes, man. How
Uh,
you doing, Miss Wright?
mhm.
Peace. Peace to the
So
chat.
right, so that is a excellent book. So we're gonna get in. So
Yeah.
we're gonna get in two of the mothers. And again, just like we talked about with Tupac, mother Afena Shakur,
Yes.
Tupac was destined to be who he
Yes.
was.
I
And
agree.
once we talk about James Baldwin mother and
Two.
we talk about Malcolm X mother, they were even Martin Luther King mother. They was
Yes.
destined to be who they were. They was destined. They was destined for that. So we want to shed and highlight these sisters, just like our great sister Annie Malinka Tubbs did, because you never hear a lot
You
about
don't.
these mothers, or
You
even
don't.
some of our other historical heroes. We don't hear about the mothers.
I was saying at the women's segment last episode 1, for those that missed it, I was saying the importance of this particular segment about the women. I took the last 2 years of my life and I said, you know what? I want to really do some hard down studying on Black women in history, the unsung heroes. And so for all our heroes that we have, I was studying their wives. I'm studying Paul Robeson's wife. I'm studying Nelson Mandela's wife. I'm studying Malcolm X's wife, MLK wife. You know, you go down the line to the trajectory. I'm studying the wives of these guys and making a habit of doing that. And the mothers of these guys are important as well.
Yes, it is. So let's get into it, man. I want to
Yeah,
get
let's do
into
it.
this
Go.
discussion.
Go with it. Go with it.
Well, it's on you. It's
Oh,
on you.
my fault. My fault. My fault. Let me get my slide. Let me get my slide.
Yeah, yes,
Here
sir.
we go. So my slide, I am covering this month. I am covering James Baldwin's mother. Her name is Emma Burgess Jones. James Baldwin's mother. She was born in 1902 in Maryland to a family of sharecroppers. Her mother died when she was very young, and she was raised by her grandmother in Baltimore. She married David Baldwin, a preacher from New Orleans, in 1923, and they had 9 children together. The family moved to New York. They moved to Harlem in the 1920s, right? She worked as a domestic worker, and David was a storefront preacher. So fast forward from that, Emma was known for her strong personality, her determination to provide for her family despite their limited resources. She instilled her children a love of reading and education and encouraged them to pursue their dreams. She influenced James Baldwin's life in writing is so evident in many of his works, particularly in description of strong, independent Black women who defy societal expectations. Emma died in 1957 from a heart attack at the age of 55 when James Baldwin was 33 years old. Her legacy lives on through her son's writing and her role as a powerful, inspiring figure in her family's history. That's my slide, but I want to continue from that. So I was doing further research on the sister, right? And they mentioned her being raised in that Maryland area. She was raised and she went to this school. It was the all Black school, but it was the school slash church, right? I want to highlight that because I spent some time as well the past 2 years studying these old Black schools before integration. You had some of the best education in the world going on at that time in those Black schools. And once again, take the emotions out of it, how you feel about church or not. A lot of times it was connected or synced up to a church
It
because
was.
that was our major institutions at the time. We couldn't go nowhere else. So the
It,
Black
it
church
oh,
and the
hold
Black
on.
schools was, yeah, go ahead.
It still is.
Yeah,
I know a lot. We have to get out this mentality, and I'm gonna let you keep going on the
and you good.
mentality about the church,
Yeah,
because we still use these institutions. A lot of us is not well studied, so we demonize the church. But when we go back and look in the historical record, you just said it was synced. So
it
when
was
you
synced.
talk about the Underground Railroad, it is synced to the church. When you talk
Right.
about the abolitionist movement, it is synced to the church. When you
Right.
talk about
Civil
the
rights.
anti-slavery, civil
Right.
rights, it is
All that.
linked to the church.
It is.
Even today, a lot of us who get buried and die, we go to the church, and the church facilitate whatever or whatever. So the
Yeah.
church is still, they're not doing what they was doing back then. That's my issue, but they are still doing some things, and we got to stop demonizing the church when the church was right there in the trenches with our ancestors,
It was.
even hiding. You talk about teaching. So it was so many different things that the church, these church institutions
Yeah.
did that they no longer do. That's the issue
Right.
that I have.
That
But
is. That
but
is.
some of the things they are
It is.
still doing
Yeah.
today. But go ahead,
Yeah.
man. I just want
Because think about this, right? At that time, we had a good bit of black people going to Ivy League schools and getting well educated, well trained, but they were not allowed to be a teacher at Ivy League school. So I saw the great writer Nikki Giovanni. She talked about her third grade teacher went to like Princeton or Columbia or something like that. So imagine if you're a child and your third grade teacher is a PhD. Imagine what you're learning in that classroom, bro. So anyway, fast forward the story. They said that James Baldwin mama exhibited brilliance as a young girl in writing and creative arts and everything. She showed all of these talents as a very young girl. And then you fast forward to James Baldwin's childhood. They said the precise same thing about James Baldwin. His early writing, his early things he was doing as an early kid, you see that trajectory and you see her impact on him. And try to imagine in your mind. So his stepdaddy, David Baldwin, was a preacher, and his mama is a writer. So as a child, imagine what he's hearing in that household. Imagine what he's around. Imagine what he's exposed to just by proximity. You know what I'm saying? So that kind of came to my mind last night.
oh yeah, no, definitely. Shout out to Sister Billy Edwards. How you
Yeah,
doing?
she official, bro. Billy, Sister
Yeah,
Billy, what's going on?
yeah, she support us, man. Shout
Yeah,
out to
she's a
that.
supporter. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, man, and as you talk about that, man, just reading the book again, The Three Mothers, how the mother of Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, and James Baldwin shaped the nation by Annie Malika Tubbs, right? Man, their stories, those mother stories are similar, bro. Like I don't know if you noticed that a lot their stories are similar, right? So and I was looking at them, and I think their births was not too far off when we talk about Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and even James
Yeah,
Baldwin.
they all kind of coincided.
Yeah,
They
they
all
kind of
cross
both.
paths.
Mhm,
Mm-hmm.
they all
Yep.
kind of coincide together, man.
Yep.
So mine is Lucille Littles. This is
Yes.
Malcolm X's mother, right? Right, and Lucille Norton Langdon Little was born in Ladue, St. Andrews Parish, Grenada, to Ella Langdon in either 1894 or 1897. Ella was the daughter of Jupiter and Mary Jane Langdon, both of whom were kidnapped from the region of modern day Nigeria and sold into slavery before freed by the British Royal Navy. Uh, the pair was eventually transported to the Grenadian village of Ladue. It has been claimed that Lucille's mother, Ella, one of the six children of the Langdons, was raped by a significant older Scotsman named Norton, resulting in Louise's birth. In later years, Louise's maternal uncle, and I'll stop right there because I kind of want to kind of go off on this slide right here, and this information is coming also from uh the Three Mothers book. But I want to read something else from out of this book. So I'm gonna go to page 20 because I want to get into because Mary and Jupiter, which is Lucille's grandmother and grandfather, played a significant role in Lucille's Little's life, and I want to kind of highlight the background. So I didn't read the rest of the slide because they were from Nigeria. Their and Malcolm X ancestry goes back to Nigeria. His great great grandmother and grandfather was kidnapped there, right? And sold into slavery. But during that time of them being sold, we know that they began to uh, create a law where there was no more human trafficking, maritime human trafficking. They no longer wanted slaves to be trafficked across the Atlantic. So they sieged the Navy, sieged the ship. This is how Lucille's grandfather and grandmother was freed, and they was took to Grenada, right? They were took to this island in Grenada in South America, right? So this is how they ended up. This is how Lucille's Malcolm X's mother ended up there, right? And just looking at that geographical location, we know that the Taínos were there first. Then you had the Cherokee Indians who came there later and was over the land, right? So there was stories already shared, but just going back to Nigeria. But let's go into this right here. I'm gonna go to page 20 real quick. Page 20. It says Lucille would become a warrior of a symbol of resistance because of the struggle from freedom pulsed through her genes. The blood of her ancestors carried with a message of liberation, while the land that held her whispered tales of revolution. It is a witness over the years. The water around her held the bodies of fighters who came before her, and she was proud to continue the legacy of her country, her people, and her family. To this day, one of the defining features of the Grenadians is their resilience, specifically white supremacy. In 1650, more than 200 years before Lucille was born, dozens of French soldiers were sent to the island to capture and colonize the Carib Indians. Striking at night and beginning a bloody slaughter, on May 30th, the French sought to take control of the Carib land and life. Instead of surrendering, at least 40 people chose to jump several hundred feet to their death from a hill overlooking the Caribbean Sea. The story of these Carib is known in Grenada history as a symbol of resistance to the European domination, and the hill from which that leapt and known to the leaper hills. Through the history like this, Lucille would learn the bravery of the Caribbean people. She would learn the sacrificing one's life in the name of freedom was more admired than living in captivity. And centuries later, in 1795, Grenada witnessed more radical resistance to colonization, this time in the form of Fedon rebellion, led by Julian Fedon, a man inspired by the Haitian Revolution. An estimated 14,000 enslaved Africans joined force with freed Africans to revolt against the British rule. The rebels burned houses and dragged British settlers into the streets where they would be executed. This rebellion engulfed Grenada for more than years until the 16 regiment were deployed on the island and regained British rule. The revolt was halted by the British force by the Fedon, never to capture through whereupon were unknown. His revolutionary spirit was there, stayed with the rebellion, contribute through Grenada, eventually independence. So through this, she was told her father, her grandmother and grandfather instilled a lot of things in her, these stories. In Grenada, the Caribbean, the Carib Indians jumping to their death because they did not want to be enslaved by the French. And then Fedon coming in with a revolt and freeing slaves, killing slave masters, and etc. Right? She knew of these rebellion stories, so she was already was grooming to be rebellious or be a fighter to liberate her people. So through the stories of her, you will always hear Lucille Little talking about liberation. So now let's go further. She was also, Malcolm X's mother, Lucille Little, was also a Pan-Africanist. You telling the story, Kofi. Yes, she was a Pan-Africanist. She later left Grenada and went to Montreal, Canada, where her uncle migrated to. And her uncle went to New York, and her uncle's friend took him to see Marcus Garvey speak in New York,
Marcus Garvey. Yep.
right,
Yep.
in the
Yep.
early 20th century.
That's right.
And that speech changed Lucille's little uncle's life forever. So he went on to spread the message of Marcus Garvey and became a Garveyite and a Pan-Africanist. And later, he reached out to his niece to come to Canada. Eventually, Lucille left the island of Grenada and went into Canada. She went into Canada and she was introduced to this ideal of Pan-Africanism, Garveyite speeches and messages, and she resonated with those messages and those teachings because there was the same teachings
Yeah, she
that
already had them.
she had already been instilled with, right?
Yep.
So later on, she became a Pan-Africanist and a Garveyite. So she was a Pan-Africanist. So you see, and she also, going back, when you talk about writing, she was also an exceptional student when she was in Grenada. She was brilliant.
She was brilliant. Yeah.
Right. A writer. She was also a writer.
Yes, she
right?
was.
Right. So you see these mothers and their upbringing and the things that was instilled in that they instilled in their children. So their children, Jane Baldwin, Malcolm X, and even Martin Luther King,
yes,
they was destined to be who they were. They was destined to be, man. So I enjoy. Go ahead.
And just to combine it together, right? Like I said, I'm reading the American Family book last night and seeing the Afena Shakur biography about her childhood. She mentioned specifically about always fighting. She was always fighting, like looking for a fight.
Yes,
that's what Tupac was.
Yes.
Before she was more mature and able to control it and hone it in, she had the spirit in her of always cutting up, resisting, fighting, whatever. So when you see that in her son in a different format, it all makes sense. You know, it all just, the trajectory just makes sense.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All of these families, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, yeah. Man.
Shout out to the mothers, man. They said the mother's the first teacher, right?
Yeah, the mother is the first teacher.
The first teacher?
The first teacher. But nope, I don't even, because I was finna go there. We trying not to attack the church. So I was finna go in my little spiel about the mother's supposed to be quiet and ain't supposed to be the teachers when the mothers are the first. But I digress for that. But man, I enjoy especially this segment right here, man. I
love it. I love it.
You know, so I hope y'all.
Can't wait till next month.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I hope y'all enjoy our breakdown of the music documentary as we broke down the documentary and talked a little more about Afena Shakur and her life. And, I hope y'all definitely enjoy the woman segment, and if y'all don't know anything about Emma Birdie Jones or Louise Little, go do some research on them and go pick up the book again. Go pick up the book.
Yes, Three Mothers, man.
Three Mothers. Go pick the book up, man.
The author did a good job of, like you said, because their lives are not that far apart as far as time. She does a good job of laying out, I want to say, U.S. history that coincide with their life at those time periods. Like every chapter, she's weaving it together with what's going on in the U.S. at this time. She does that throughout the whole book to lace together, man. She did some wonderful, wonderful writing.
Oh yeah, she did, and Mary, I think it's Mary Turner. That's one that she spoke about as well in that book. I want to definitely go get I would go do some more research on that lady as well. But she great writing. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying great writing all the way around the board. You know what I'm saying? You guaranteeing you gonna learn some stuff. I like, the outline like you mentioned, things that transpired through, the historical record here and how she highlighted certain other things, man. It's a great book, man. So definitely go check that book out, man. Give the other book again that you mentioned on the Shakur family.
It's called The American Family. It's America with a K in it. America Family.
Go get that book.
Just came out last Tuesday. Brand new off the presses, man. It's hot. It's good.
And go get also One more
Yep.
time, Afina Shakur,
Yep.
The
Jasmine Guy.
Evolution of a Revolutionary by Jasmine Guy. I can't wait to break this book up. That book actually been out, I think, since
It been,
'05 or
yeah,
'06.
been out for a minute. There's also got books out there about the Panther 21 specifically. You can go and find those books as well on Panther
Mhm,
21.
mhm. That was most definitely, man. So, you
Dropping
know,
information, man.
yes,
Information, baby.
yes, sir.
Griots.
Yes, sir. So we hope y'all appreciate this episode of Dear Mama. Shout out to all the mothers.
All the mothers, man.
Uh, a belated happy Mother's Day
Yes.
to the mothers. And we extend honor and praises to all the mothers because without y'all, we wouldn't be here. So
No, we wouldn't.
yes, sir. So we appreciate it, man. And again, um, me and brother Seanathan Polidore, uh, we are be shooting these episodes every month.
Yep.
So the next episode is
Got something special.
June the 28th. We got something special
Something special.
doing. We got something top secret. And maybe late June,
Yep.
early July, we will disclose that information of what a
Yeah.
project that we got brewing. Man, I'm excited about this.
Yeah. It's good stuff.
Yes, sir. So I'm
Yep.
excited. I'm excited about next episode. We'll keep y'all informed of what we got
Yep.
for
You'll
next.
see the flyer coming.
Yeah, you'll see it coming
Yeah.
soon. So we greatly appreciate y'all. And
And this audio will be available on the Griots Podcast
mhm,
on Spotify, Anchor, where you enjoy your actual podcast listening. You'll have the audio of this episode as well. Pretty much like probably sometime tomorrow you'll have the audio.
yes, sir. So y'all be look out. And if y'all hadn't went and subscribed to Anchor or Spotify, definitely go
Yeah, check it out,
subscribe
man. Subscribe,
to
follow.
those. Go follow us. I
Yep.
mean,
Hit the
go
little notification button. Get the notifications,
so
man.
you can get the notification. Get the notification. So we're gonna continue to do the visual, and then we're gonna do the audio.
We will.
So again,
We
we
got
great
we got 8 more shows to go, baby. We got 8 shows to come. I'm excited.
8 more shows to come. So
8 shows in the can.
we greatly appreciate y'all. And again, we are writers and authors, so all of our publications are down in the description. Go buy some of our publications. It's down in the description again. So Nathan, show them your shirt. If you want this red the Griot Podcast shirt, it is on in Boca Family Connect Apparel. We had the black one on last
Yep.
last
Black and
month.
gold.
The black one, if
Yep.
you want the black and gold one. Next show will be some kind of blue and
Yeah.
gold.
Yeah, that
So
blue. Yeah.
blue and
Uh-huh.
gold is hard too. So if
We got we
y'all
got we
want,
got we got flavors, man. We got
yeah,
flavors, bro.
we got flavor. So if
We
you
got
want one
flavors,
of
baby.
you know, go ahead and in Boca Family Connect Apparel and get you one of the fly shirts, the Griot Podcast, especially if you consider yourself a Griot, or
Yeah.
you operate in those capacity as those Griots, man. So, you know, um, so Nathan, you got anything else, man, before we end the show?
Yeah, before I close, man, I would just say you mentioned our social media handles gonna be in the description. You'll see it. Both of us do a good job, like during the week on our individual pages on Instagram and other places. I try to go live 3 or 4 times a week about various topics, movies, TV shows, just talking about life, society, books, whatever it might be. My man Kofi is always dropping the great information on his page as well on a regular basis, man. So besides hearing our voice once a month on the Griot Podcast, man, go to our individual pages. There's always something to learn, something to gain from that, I would say.
Oh yeah, yes sir, man. And thank you, Sister Ladosha. Ladosha says, "Man, this podcast was fire. We de- we
I
definitely
appreciate
a
it.
feature. We
Appreciate it.
definitely a
Yes,
feature.
we
We
do.
definitely because
We definitely
you said you got the number one podcast every Monday when you and Cheryl go live. You say y'all have the best podcast. I love y'all podcast, so I
shout out.
appreciate
Shout out.
you.
Yeah,
So we appreciate you
we
for
do.
saying this podcast.
Everybody in the chat, everybody that commented in the chat, everybody that stayed in the chat,
Yes,
we appreciate it, man. We appreciate y'all time and attention. That's the most important currency right now is time, man. So I
yes,
appreciate that.
yes, sir. So. Again, man, we out of here. We'll see y'all June the 28th
Yes, we will.
for episode 2. And that
3.
voice, I
Three
mean
piece.
3. Wow.
Come
Yeah,
on,
for
Kofi. 3 piece.
episode 3.
3 piece.
Episode 3. So,
Yeah.
we got, like he said, we got 8 more episodes to go. We
8,
shooting
8 to go,
10
baby.
episodes of the Griots
Season
Podcast.
1. Yeah, season 1. 10 episodes.
Season 1. But I'm telling y'all, y'all gonna enjoy episode 5. We have something special brewing for episode 5. We have a big project and a big announcement. Like I said, it'll probably be the end of June or the 1st of July with that, man. But man, I want to say we out of here, man. Peace. And we'll see y'all next time.
Peace and blessings. Peace.
All right.